to go back to being weird. I like being weird. Weird's all I've got. That and a sweet style.
Hi, I'm Blake Bettner, and today we're talking about weird watches, strange watches. I think we all own, well, a wide variety of watches, some of which may fall into strange or weird territory for one reason or another. We've got an assortment of watches here on the table that maybe fall into this territory a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about why, and I think we've got a pretty nice range of diversity from like strange cases, strange dials, maybe strange straps, strange strap materials, certainly. We've got a lot of it covered here. Zach, you have a lot of weird watches.
Yes.
Maybe quite famously or not famously, I don't know, but I feel like every time you bring in a watch from some box that you had in your house, it's always kind of falls into this category.
I think as my tastes have changed, as I've continued to be immersed in the world of watches, more than most people because we do this daily. Like it's really like a full immersion in watches. I veered away from just your normal watch, and I sometimes even have some conflict with with normal watches, where like an Explorer, it's a perfectly wonderful watch and it's just so damn normal. I don't know if it does it for me anymore. It's not extreme enough. I have sort of a gradient here from touching on weird, grazing on weird, unique to strange and perhaps even notoriously considered to be ugly. So I have the Sin EZM 2 here. Sin, pretty straightforward looking tool watch, but it's a oil-filled dive watch with a quartz movement in it. It's full of oil, so it has some strange optical qualities to it. Very uncommon. I think that's why I like it. I like that this is unlike the other Sins. And there's Sins that look just like this. EZM 3 is another watch I love, but that is sort of too normal.
Filled with air.
Yeah. Filled with
a little too normal,
old air. Moving on, the Christopher Belcanto here. Obviously not your normal looking watch in both form and function. So it's got an off-center hour and minute hand, but then also has a dial side complication for that sonnery, the hourly chiming, very visually striking watch. Odd, I think, to some. It's not necessarily like a legibility first watch, so I've gotten quite used to telling time on it. The Louis Erard Excellence Silberstein here. This is actually fairly straightforward, I think, in many ways. It's a regulator, so you have your hour and your minutes separated. It is designed by Alain Silberstein, the famed French watch designer and architect, I believe, an artist. I remember when these came out, people who don't know Alain Silberstein sort of look at this and they go, why does that look like it's designed by Play School? Because they got these really like simplistic, bold forms, primary colors. Reminds me of Keith Haring's-worth. There's something very like exciting about it. I absolutely love wearing this watch. It's a great statement sort of piece, a little bit more artistic. Next over, I have the newest Louis Erard, the Konstantin Chaikin collaboration. I don't know what this was called. Even some sort of something monster.
Time Eater, I think.
Time Eater, yes. So this is the 42 millimeter model here, the green ring. I went for the larger one intentionally because I felt like it had like the right presence, because this is a weird watch that's a statement piece. This has got an eyeball on it and a mouth. This one's completely ridiculous. Still getting used to how ridiculous it is, I won't lie. But this is, about the artist. It's a different experience, I'll tell you that much, wearing that. And then lastly, the Seiko Sportura. It's from the late 90s, famously also nicknamed the Jay Leno watch, because he does wear this. No shade there, but that's not why I got it. So this is a kinetic chronograph by Seiko, from the late 90s, where all the functions are broken out. So you have a small time dial, and then you have a chronograph broken out, all with their own crystals. Even the date has its own crystal. Very strange sort of biomorphic design, full titanium. Watch I admired when I was a teenager, and so it just occurred to me that I should get one. And now I need to get service. So
look, the point stands. Like, just look at it, right? That's a watch at a glance that is not your ordinary watch. I think the Zin you have there, even from over here at this angle, I can perfectly see the hands and markers and read the time. Such a special watch, and not special overtly. Like once you look a little bit further, there's something fun to discover about it. And I think that's a detail that follows through with some of the other watches that we have here. I think we've got a couple of watches here, like this IWC, maybe this Citizen, and maybe this Ploprov, kind of like relatively normal-ish looking dials, but the cases are kind of where they deviate into like weird territory. Zach, tell us about the material on this case.
So the IWC chronograph here is made of ceratanium. This is only weird if you're like a watch nerd, I think, and if you like are kind of like a nerd for materials. It's basically IWC has this titanium alloy that they heat at very high temperatures, and it comes out kind of like with this gray, like almost black tone, and ceramic like scratch resistant properties. So it's not weird in the way that Zach's constant time eater with a toad strap and the Jay Leno watch is like those are weird. Those are capital W weird.
Proper weird.
This is sort of like IWC chronographs are very popular. It's a very well-known, kind of iconic watch, but most of the time you see them in steel.
Yeah.
And this is just like a different flavor of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So the case is kind of what makes that one stand apart. The Ploprof kind of speaks for itself. It's got a very unusual, ridiculous, I would say, case, the dimensions of it and all that. But the dial is a perfectly normal, handsome dive watch dial. And it's the same with this, the kind of flat ashtray titanium case on this one. I guess the dial is camouflage on this one, so it's like a little bit strange. But it's like the cases are kind of what make these things like so special and interesting. Of course, it's all part of the whole package. And one interesting thing here, this is also slightly unusual case, particularly with the lug design. But of course, the dial is where it really deviates. And this Solabs. There's not a traditionally recognizable set of hands at work here. What's going on with this?
It's super funky, and I feel a little singled out. I guess I'm a little too mainstream for this group. But this is sort of my weird watch. This is the Solabs Layer 2, and what they did, they changed the day-date complication to have these rotating discs. I think there's over 200 variations of the colors that will kind of rotate in and out, and so it looks different literally every single day, which is really cool. But yeah, it's super fun, very affordable too. Some of these are very affordable, some are not. But it's a really, really fun watch to have and really funky. Yeah, really weird.
Watches like this and maybe some of the others here maybe don't fall into like a practical realm that we might think of it, but the watches are about something different than that. And then Zach, you have another watch here that I think kind of falls into that realm.
Are you saying this is not practical?
This Argonaut watch. Well, I haven't worn it, so I can't be the total judge of that. But
it doesn't have any. It doesn't have any numerals or indices of any kind. The dial is just this psychedelic pattern created by kind of drippings of paint from American auto factories. So each dial is completely unique. They're sanded and polished and finished in such a way that make them kind of aesthetically appealing. Mm-hmm. And I just love it. This is a personal watch that I own. I bought it relatively recently. It's definitely, I think, probably the weirdest watch in my collection at the moment. But it's also I find it so enjoyable to wear. It's so comfortable. The rubber strap is it's very form-fitting and soft and pliable. The case is shaped in such a way that it just really it just works on my wrist. It's 41 millimeters. It's kind of it has this narrow profile that I like. Mm-hmm. It's not practical in the sense that you can't see to the exact minute what time it is at a glance, but it's practical in the sense that I want to wear it a lot, and it makes my life a little easier in a sense. I know that I want to wear it, and I'm going to kind of enjoy wearing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other features that's maybe unexpectedly strange is the crown mechanism of this watch.
Yeah, they've designed the crown to sit flush to the case in such a way that it lines up perfectly with it. So you pull the crown out to the first position and it spins freely and it doesn't actually wind the watch. You have to shake the watch to get it going. And then you pull it out to the second position, it hacks the movement, and you set the time. And then when you push it back in, it allows you to then line it up exactly.
Yeah, I guess something we don't really think about all that often, the shape of the crown. We just take it for granted that it's always a circle.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then they've kind of programmed in a solution there. I've got another watch here that I think qualifies as strange in a couple of different ways. This is the DMH Jump Hour watch. It has the exposed discs here, but it also has this really funky crown mechanism machined into the top of the case with a crown locking guard that you have to kind of push the pin down with your thumb and unscrew it to pull the thing out. But it's just very unique in how it looks and sticks out of the case, which is kind of fun. Again, not all these have to be practical solutions. Some of them are just kind of inventive solutions that we enjoy here. Obviously, none of these are totally necessary, so it's nice to have something that's kind of brings a smile to your face. And then the jump hour mechanism itself, much like the rotating discs here, there's an element of creativity in how something is used and put to use, and the complication is used. The chiming mechanism is another one. I think they're kind of surprising, strange, slightly complications. Not to mention digital watches that like this Bulova Computron that you have to press a button to see the time, and then of course the overall kind of shape of it also qualifies as slightly strange.
And how it sits
well.
on your wrist. You're reading that kind of not from top down, but sort of
at
the side angle.
Was it the
driver's
angle?
Driver's thing?
Of
I mean, it's actually, it makes sense.
Yeah. But we have one watch here that was designed by one of us here, which is, of course, the Zodiac done with worn wound, designed by Zach Weiss here, of course. So this I think qualifies as strange for, it's got a Velcro strap, which is great. It's 2 different colors. There's a lot of different colors going on the dial and in the bezel. Tell us about the design process.
Yeah, I mean, so this was sort of, the design here was sort of a reaction to the fun that is had in the world of sneakers and outdoors gear that was sort of not there in watches, at least from where I was perceiving it. So a dive watch, there's plenty of dive watches with color in them, even, from Zodiac in particular, known for their use of color, but it's a solid red, a solid blue, a solid orange, maybe orange and white, something like that. I wanted to take the clashing color profiles that you find in sneakers and the textures and see what happened when we put it on a watch and see if it worked. We did things like the flecked bezel, which was a directly inspired by the sort of fleck paint that you'll see on midsoles of sneakers, and then the anodized markers like the carabiners on backpacks and things like that, grids, a lot of textures. So a little bit of clashing, bright colors, sort of 90s sort of Memphis feel to it. It's not for everyone. We got a lot of reactions to this, a lot of strong
like all
reactions.
these watches,
Not
I'm
everyone
sure.
liked it, but they sold well, and I think it's very well loved by those who own it, which I feel like is like the real test. It's sort of like cherished by people who have it.
I think we've talked about this concept of the fourth watch. I think a lot of these watches fall into the territory of, well, it's maybe not a great like first watch or second watch, but like fourth, fifth, or sixth, or beyond. It's a great, like, these guys all kind of fall into that realm. How do these fit in your collection?
I think this is kind of where my collection has headed, period. I haven't really gone back in a while. I mean, most days I'm wearing something sort of in this vein, particularly like these two watches, the Christopher Belcanto and the Louis Gerard Lon Silberstein. These are watches I wear a lot. But yeah, I'm more drawn to unique expressions, different experiences, and personality at this point in my watches, because they don't feel like the other watches that I've had. They don't feel like the watches that I was buying for a very long time, and I still really love, but they just don't give me the same sort of fascination that these do. I mean, I really can lose myself in these watches on a daily basis.
What about you, Zach? How do you see these things in your collection?
I've had like plenty of like kind of like quote unquote normal watches, like simple, more understated traditional watches, and I've found that as good as those watches are objectively, there's something unsatisfying about them to me. I find myself looking for other things that excite me, and I sometimes find that in a watch like the Archanaut, and certainly in a watch like the IWC. And it doesn't have to be like a completely strange, hard to explain watch. Watches can have a little thing that kind of like makes them just like a little bit tweaked from normal, that kind of can like excite you as an enthusiast. It might be like a color, it might be like a particular type of craft involved in making the watch. There's a whole bunch of different things that can do that.
No, I think that's well put. And Kat, what about you? How does this fit into kind of your collection and collecting patterns?
I mean, I do own the Zodiac as well, so I guess I do own two of these weird watches. Yeah, but I'm in a different place in my collection, so I'm not quite at Zach's level just yet. But I can see myself going down that path at some point. I think for me, finding the watches that are just like slightly different, whether it's like a limited edition or a different color variation they didn't do very long, those are the watches that I tend to gravitate towards now. And then, yeah, keeping a few of these just for conversation starters. I love wearing this watch because people ask me about it, and I'm sure you all agree, like it's awesome when you actually get asked about your watch. And if you're wearing a Sub or a Seiko, you're not going to usually be asked, what watch are you wearing?
Exactly.
So it's nice when you wear something like this that can spark a conversation with people outside of watches too, and I think they gravitate towards stuff like this.
And watches like these all provide an experience that goes above beyond that, so I put them on when I do want to think about what I'm wearing. So less concerned about like, well, how does it fit on my wrist, and does it fit under my cuff, and is the lug to lug is too long, like all that kind of stuff goes out the window because you're buying into the experience as a whole. So those are some of our strange watches, and those are some of our thoughts on strange watches, why we have them in our collection, why we find them so important to how we collect. But we'd love to know what you think. What is the strangest watch on this table right now? Is there anything that offends you? Anything that you love? Let us know. We're here for it. We'll have more of our thoughts on strange watches now live at wornandwound.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. If you enjoyed this, please be sure to share and like. And until next time, take care.